But I didn't get here overnight. And there are definitely certain things that I have to recognize about myself that help me function better. So apply this for you if you're listening to this, especially as an adult. Recognize that your schedule might not work for your ADD. Your schedule, your lifestyle, you will have to change things. If you have to sit at a desk at a computer all day, that is like the worst thing for somebody with ADHD. Figure out a way to shift your schedule so that you have off times and on times. Because if you give your brain a break, you need brain breaks to let your system reset, to let your system whatever, and then you can get back to it. Because what you can accomplish in a short period of time, like you can do so much so quickly at such a high quality without missing a single thing, and then your brain needs a break. Give your brain a break. Hey there, welcome to the Female Health Solution podcast, where we discuss women's health, hormones, and everything else in between. Join me as we dive into the tools that you need to live your healthiest life. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Female Health Solution podcast. I am your host, Dr. Beth Westy. Today, we're going to talk about ADHD, natural solutions for ADHD. And if you're wondering, I don't know if these things really work. What do you know about this? I'm going to talk about this not only from a professional standpoint, but a personal standpoint. Quick backstory. I was diagnosed as ADHD at 16 years old, which at the time, back in 1996, was not common for girls, right? It wasn't a common diagnosis. I was not rowdy. I was a good student. I would miss questions on one of my health tests. And anyway, I think I've talked about this before, but I wouldn't, if I missed a question on a health quiz or something, you would get a 0 on it. You had to try at least. Well, I wouldn't even see the question. I'd be going so fast through the test because I knew all the answers. It was so easy, right? It was like regular health class, whatever. And the health teacher was also the softball coach, and she knew me, and she did call me Betsy a lot. Anyway, but she knew me, and she was like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you not answering the questions?" And I was like, "That question wasn't on there." And she's like, "Yes, it is." And I was like, "Oh, I literally didn't see it." So I got sent to the counselor because she didn't know what to do with me. And then the counselor sent me to the school psychologist, because she was talking to me. What do you do? Like, what do you blah, 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 whatever. Like, why don't you see this or whatever? And I was like, I don't know. She goes, do you have a hard time paying attention? And I'm like, what? No. And she asked me some questions, and I vividly remember her going over to her shelf of books. She got this huge book off. It was dark brown. This huge book off the shelf, flipped through it, and she started asking me questions. I don't know. I don't remember how many exactly, 15, 20 questions. And I remember answering yes to most of them. The ones that I didn't answer yes to was like something about anger or like something like that, mood swings. And I was like, no, that doesn't fit me. But a lot of it, yes. And I was like, yeah, I'm just like, sometimes people are talking and then I'm not there anymore. She's like, where do you go? I remember saying that because I laughed so hard. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm like still here. But if you talk too long, my brain is going to go somewhere else. I'm going to think about something else. I'm going to think about a movie I watched, or I'm going to start singing a song in my head, or I'm going to think of a recipe, or what do I want to eat later? Or, so-and-so was wearing this barrette. That was really cool. I wonder where she got that. I wonder if I could get that at the mall, right? If you've ever watched Gilmore Girls, sometimes Lorelai Gilmore, like there's that scene where they're at the table and they're stringing the popcorn and cranberries on, and she goes on this rant. And then it ends with like monkey underpants. And I'm like, that's my brain. That's my brain. Although at the time Gilmore Girls had not come out. Anyway. Do you see it now? Are you seeing it now? Anyway. So some of the things that I went through were just tough to get diagnosed. And I was on medications after that. And that changed my personality and things like that. I did have heart palpitations sometimes. I didn't like that. And I only used it for school. There was that. But then there was other things that like came to realization in terms of like ADHD in girls versus boys, because boys were seen as like rowdy and loud and disruptive. And that's how they got diagnosed. And I was not like that. I was more of a spaced cadet. My nickname when I was little was Earth to Bethy. Earth to Bethy. Where, like, no joke. Earth to Bethy. Where is she? Where is she? She's not mentally here. Yeah, because I am somewhere else. If you're not going to keep my attention here, my brain is going to find somewhere else to be, entertained by. My mom also told me when I was older that at one point when I was young, she had my hearing tested because she thought I was hard of hearing or deaf, maybe. She had my hearing tested 4 times. Every time it came back perfect. I remember going for hearing tests. I remember sitting in this little booth, these huge honking headphones, and I remember the beeps, and I had to like touch the side where I heard the beeps. I was old enough to remember doing that. So I don't know if I was like 4 or 5 or something, but I was not hard of hearing. I have a fast moving brain. So I've dealt with this personally. That's kind of my backstory. And then my husband is very ADHD as well. He was sent out to run around the track when he was in school to burn off energy. Not a bad kid, just rowdy and can't sit still. Now he works as, he worked in the construction and brick mason for years and was a long distance runner and skier, a cross country skier in college, all these things, right? Get that energy out. So there is part of this that I want to say, and part of how I feel like I am successful in my life. And a lot of people with ADHD, sorry, I'm jumping around. Let me try and slow my brain down for a second. How do you do this? How do you navigate it? How do you manage it? It does change throughout your life. It does change with your hormonal cycle, how your brain and focus is. That's for sure a thing. And then the other thing is, a lot of us with ADD or ADHD have felt really stupid at points of our lives. And I think you need to recognize that, realize that, and come to terms with that. Be at peace with feeling like you know what, other people they don't understand how my brain works and how and it's not a bad thing, but that to a lot of other things, like I have gotten in trouble for doing things that I'm not intending to be naughty or bad or whatever, like elementary school, middle school, high school, all these things. But I literally just checked out mentally, I like completing a test really, really quickly, but we have to sit in our seats until everybody's done or until the class is over. And I get so bored that there's nothing else to do or play with. So in my mind, I end up folding the test into an airplane. And now I'm thinking about aerodynamics and all these other things. And I get in trouble for folding the test. Like things like that, where you are made to feel like you are a bad kid or a dumb kid, or that there's something wrong with you because your brain just can't sit still. And sometimes you can't physically sit still. I do also think that this played a role in me being an athlete, and being active my whole life. That it was always really beneficial, right? That is how if you're moving, you're paying attention. You can focus better. So to realize a lot of this stuff, and as an adult, how you manage and navigate it. And there's a lot of women that are getting diagnosed as ADHD as adults and realizing, oh my gosh, my brain works different, things like that. Now, part of this as well is an issue with dopamine. And I just had a recent Dutch test and my dopamine levels are terrible. So I'm working on that. Working on it. But one of the things here when we're talking about natural solutions for ADHD is to make sure that you are supporting yourself with the right lifestyle that you can have. This does not mean that you cannot be in a career or do what you want to do in your life because of it, but realize that it might not look like everybody else. I remember getting diagnosed or getting accommodations in school, like extended test time or testing in a quiet environment to help me focus. And I would get a sheet of paper that I could draw on and write on as well. Now, if I didn't use it or whatever, but I remember like other people in the family hearing about this and saying, how is she going to be successful in life? That's not fair. Other people don't get that. You just have to figure it out and buck up or whatever. And it's like, you know what? Life isn't fair. And if there's a chance that you can learn more and learn different skills or things to help your system function better, great. What's really funny is that I have the highest education level out of anybody in my family. I'm the first person to get a doctorate and still the only person to get a doctorate in anything. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because you don't need to have anything hold you back. And like to have a quiet testing environment, that was great. I also didn't get that for boards or anything else. For any other exams that I took, for board exams and things like that, the hardest exams, the most expensive exams I've ever taken in my life, I had to take them in a room with everybody else. But I was able to learn through years of practice and testing out different techniques and things like that, like using my hand to cover up, using my sweatshirt sleeve to cover up different things on the page so I could just see stuff better, so I could go through them quickly. So I could go through the questions quickly, right? That is what it's about. And then part 4 of boards is a practical. I scored the highest on the practical, of course, because it was hands-on. It is like interaction with people. It is interactive. It's not just sitting there filling out bubbles on a piece of paper. That is what it is. And then in terms of a job and career and things like that, I love what I do. I get to talk to different people all the time, every day. I get to look over different tests and things like that. I can read a Dutch test so much faster than other people because my brain works faster. I can absorb information so quickly and understand it at a completely different level. That's what helps me, not hurts me. But I didn't get here overnight. And there are definitely certain things that I have to recognize about myself that help me function better. So apply this for you if you're listening to this, especially as an adult. Recognize that your schedule might not work for your ADD. Your schedule, your lifestyle, you will have to change things. If you have to sit at a desk at a computer all day, that is like the worst thing for somebody with ADHD. Figure out a way to shift your schedule so that you have off times and on times. Because if you give your brain a break, you need brain breaks to let your system reset, to let your system whatever, and then you can get back to it. Because what you can accomplish in a short period of time, like you can do so much so quickly at such a high quality without missing a single thing, and then your brain needs a break. Give your brain a break. That is so helpful. Check your dopamine levels. If your dopamine levels are low, you're going to have a harder time overall, right? No wonder I'm jumping all over the place with this, talking about this 12 minutes in as I look at my time clock. My dopamine is terrible. I'm working on it, right? Make sure you're also getting enough physical activity every day. Every day. It doesn't have to be intense. It can be a gentle yoga. It can be just a walk or something. But that will help your brain so much. Lifestyle things. Sleep. If you're not sleeping well, your brain cannot rest and recover, and it's going to be harder to focus the next day. And I know you're thinking, duh, of course, that's the same for everybody. It's worse if you have ADHD. Caffeine intake. You might be thinking, oh, don't drink caffeine. No, drink the caffeine. Have a cup of coffee. It helps you focus, right? Yeah, it helps. For a lot of people, it helps. I don't drink a ton of coffee. I have a cup of coffee in the morning, but that will get me going. But if I am in the, luteal phase of my cycle, the progesterone phase, days 15 through 28, especially week 4, if I feel like, oh my gosh, my brain feels stuck or I spaced out too much, I'm like, yep, I need another cup of, like half a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Green tea in the afternoon. Game changer. Yeah. And it doesn't impact my sleep at all. But those are some of the basic things. Beyond that, protein is going to help you focus more. Getting enough healthy fats is essential. Again, these are basic lifestyle things. Making sure your other hormones are supported. Making sure your cortisols are kept in check. Because stress will fritz your brain that much faster. So keep it managed. How do you keep it managed? I'm so glad you asked. What a great question. The adrenal balance tincture. The adrenal balance tincture helps your brain keep that managed really, really quickly and easily. Yeah. And then make sure you are just mentally processing everything and realize that your brain needs time to process differently, more. And it's not a matter, the thing I've gotten stuck on is the loop of, am I being productive enough in my day? Am I doing enough? Is this enough? Right? Not necessarily that, but it's more of, because I can complete tasks and do things so quickly and efficiently. And then what else do I have to do? I should get more done, right? No, give your brain a break and go for a walk. Give your brain a break and just lay down for 10 minutes, close your eyes, and do deep breathing. I have a really hard time meditating unless I'm in a room and somebody else is doing it, in a sound bath and all these things to keep my brain entertained, amused, engaged. I can't just do it, right? And it will be the longest 10 minutes of my life. But if there's a verbal cue going through it, I can do that 10-minute meditation, and it's a brain break. Then get back to it. So some of these like natural solutions for ADHD, just recognize that what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. But these are some basic things that are going to improve it for everybody. And then also lean into the fact that your brain just works differently. And that's a great thing. That is a great thing. If you feel like you have a bad memory, stop saying that first. You don't have a bad memory. You don't. I guarantee there are little things that you remember about details of stuff that no one else remembers. Right? I remember exactly the buttons on the jacket my fourth grade teacher wore. How is that helpful right now? Right now. Exactly what those buttons look like. If I saw them again, I'd be like, those are the buttons Miss Pfaff wore. Yep, absolutely. Cool leather jacket. She had short dark hair. Oh, she was styling. But there's some things that you can't remember. Your brain just didn't grasp onto it. There are certain things where I also realize that if I have an emotional trigger to something, I have a hard time remembering it, and I have to have somebody say it again. I write everything down. I put so much in my notes app. I put reminders in my calendar. I do all of those things to help me remember things. But keep in mind, with all of these other lifestyle tools, writing things down, shifting your schedule, focusing on sleep, decreasing your stress, eating lots of protein, making sure your gut health is good, making sure your neurotransmitter production is good, right? You still might get stuck in a loop or feel like, what's wrong with my brain? When somebody says something or talks about something and you're like, I can't remember that. When I was learning how to set boundaries, it was really hard for me. I was listening to an audiobook, and there's so many things that I can listen to audiobooks. I consume them super fast. I listen to them at double time, at 2 times speed. I listen to audiobooks. I retain all the information, all that stuff, right? But when I was listening to books about setting boundaries, and like the Nancy Levin book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, she would say these phrases, and she's like, you can say this. And I'd be like, yes, okay, great. And then I remember later being like, that phrase, snow screen, can't remember any of it at all. And I'd go back and listen to it again. I had to listen to it, pause, repeat it, back it up, listen to it. I paused it and I would repeat it myself. I'd like say it out loud. I'm walking around my neighborhood, listening to an audiobook, saying these things out loud. I'm sure I look like a crazy person. So realize that if your brain has a hard time grasping something, it might be connected to like a deeper emotional wound as well. How do you improve that? Work on that, right? Therapy, other thing, right? Work on that. And continue to support your physical body. The healthier your physical body is, the easier it is to manage your ADHD symptoms. And then also track your cycle, work with your hormones, because that will also shift and change that ADHD as well. So that's what I got for you guys today on that. Remember, Dutch testing, test your neurotransmitters. Adrenal balance helps with that stress response. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I've lived with this my whole life. I know you guys probably have too if you're listening to this. Keep working through it, right? When you get in a good groove, life is so much easier. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. If you would like more information, just head on over to drbethwesty.com for all the show notes and information from today's episode. And if you're looking for more community, more support, you can find and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and I would love to see you there.